This is Brazos Valley Vets, an archive visit with a military veteran from the Brazos Valley. Now, here's your host, Tom Turbyville.
Brazos Valley Voices is very proud of its relationship with the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial. It's tucked away in College Station's Veterans Park and Athletic Complex at 3101 Harvey Road. It's a hidden gem for sure, a 12-acre site dedicated to veterans from our nation's major wars. The Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial includes life-size statues, a wall of honor, interpretive panels, and memorial sites. It was chartered in 2000 as a nonprofit corporation. The Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial is supported by generous community residents, organizations, and partners, including Brazos County and the municipalities of Bryan and College Station. The Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial's all-volunteer board of directors proudly contributes their time and resources to salute our veterans. Their mission is to proactively pay tribute to veterans through an educational venue where future generations can learn that freedom comes with a heavy price. Former President George H.W. Bush helped dedicate the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial on November the 10th, 2002. Bush said at the time, "The Brazos Valley community can stand proud. The names that mark the memorial showcase the sons and daughters who gave dedicated service to our nation so that future generations can share the freedoms we enjoy. Their task was great, their sacrifice even greater, but their legacy stands firm, and their memories burn bright." Bush later said the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial is a similar quality to those at the famed mall in Washington, D.C. Within the Lewis L. Adam Memorial Plaza sits the 250-ton red granite Wall of Honor, which serves as the memorial's focal point. The wall bears the etched names of more than 5,000 veterans representing all periods of U.S. history who are family and friends of Brazos Valley residents. Notable names include 24 presidents and former Texas A&M University students who received the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military award. The bronze sculpture mounted at the top of the wall depicts a GI carrying a fellow soldier to safety. The statue is the work of artist Robert Eccleston of Schuyler Falls, New York. Do you have a beloved veteran that you would like to add to the Wall of Honor? The veteran may be living, deceased, or active, and does not have to be a Brazos Valley resident. The cost is $150 per name, and the application deadline each year is August the 15th. New additions are recognized at the annual Veterans Day ceremony. Names received after August 15th will be recognized the following year. For more information on adding your loved ones or your name to the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial Wall of Honor, contact the BVVM at 979-696-6247 or email them info@bvvm.org. Or you can go to their fantastic website. It's easy, bvvm.org. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Brazos Valley Voices, and today another World War II veteran. She was Catherine Chatham, a WASP. Catherine Chatham, an engineering test pilot, a proud member of the WASPs of World War II. WASP, that's Women's Air Force Service Pilots. They were there to relieve men who went off to war. They were the first ladies of military aviation. It's an amazing interview. They were not accepted as veterans until 1977. Catherine Chatham's husband, Roland Chatham, was a war cinematographer, and she speaks of him. This interview was on October the 14th, 1999, with Catherine Chatham, World War II veteran. Just tell me about your veteran experience, just so I know very little.
Well, the Women's Air Force Service Pilots are a very interesting story just in themselves because they were disbanded in December of 1920. They called us up and trained us, taught us how to fly, and then sent us home. At least that's my experience, because I was in the next to last class. And but the earlier women were ferry pilots and were experienced pilots. They were called the W.A.S.P.s, but they came later, joined our group, and so we were a union together. And like all women in military in World War II, we were primarily there to relieve men so they could go and fight. And we were within the continental United States. The program I went into was a training program. I had to have 35 hours to get in, flying hours, and pass a physical and all the usual things.
Right.
But as the war was winding down, they didn't need pilots anymore. We went in as civil service employees of the government, but were promised military. Well, most of us, that wasn't terribly important. We just wanted to fly and wanted to serve our country. And so we were disappointed to not be able to do much. I was only had 6 weeks of active duty. I was stationed at Marana Air Base, a training base in Tucson, Arizona. My training had been in Sweetwater, Texas, at Avenger Field, and that's where all the training was, except for the first 2 classes, I think. Started in Houston, which is now Hobby. It was Houston Municipal, I think, when I started. And so I think that's a real interesting story. In the 70s, when we began to read in the newspaper that the first women in military aviation didn't set too well with most of us, so some of the more active type ladies lobbied the Congress, and so we were accepted as veterans in 1977, which was a long time to wait to be recognized.
30 years or so.
Yes, 30 years exactly. And, well, no, it's 32 or 30, something like that.
32, right?
Yeah.
The war ended in 45, so yeah, sure.
So I think that's the interesting part of our story. And another part of our mission was to prove that women could fly. You know, back then, they didn't think we were strong enough or able to fly an airplane, and so we proved that pretty thoroughly, that we could keep up with the boys. Of course, we tried harder, I think, than the men did, just so we could be able to prove that. And I think our record might be better than men. Another reason would be that we all wanted to fly. A lot of times men went into the Air Corps so they wouldn't have to be in the infantry, for instance, something like that. So I think that would be one reason we have a good record.
Yeah.
2 reasons we have a good record.
Because you went in wanting to do it. That's what you wanted to do.
Yes,
Fly.
wanted very much. And I don't know a single woman I met that wasn't just dying to fly and doing everything they could to not wash out. We all wanted to finish that program.
Yeah. When did you start flying? When you were real young, or?
Yeah, well, not real young. I think maybe 21.
Right.
I was riding around with my pal Gloria Stephen Sale, who everybody knows Gloria Sale.
Sure.
In her convertible, and we picked up an Aggie we knew on the street, and he said, "You know an airport? We have an airport in Bryan?" And, "No, we don't." So he took us out to Coulter Field, and I met Nan and Dick Cardwell, and so they offered us free flights, 15-minute flights. So I accepted and went out the next morning, and my old pal Guy Davis, who was a classmate of mine, gave me my first 15 minutes. Well, of course, Nan Cardwell being a sales lady, and they were starting a flight school out there. And so she offered me a course to learn to fly for $125, and I had no particular reason to take it, but I brought the information home and asked my father if I could do it, and much to my surprise, he said he would pay for it. he did ask me, well, what are you going to do with it after you learn? I said, I don't know, but he agreed to let me learn to fly, which I did. I took the solo course, and after that I went off to Dallas and worked a while, and my father got tired of paying my Neiman Marcus bills, so I came home and went to work at Coulterfield for flying time. And in the meantime, Nan Cardwell had learned about the WASP and persuaded me to enter, to apply, and much to my surprise, I was accepted. This was in 43, but I didn't get into training until April of 44.
Is that where you went to Houston first? Is that right?
No. I went to Sweetwater.
Sweetwater first, okay.
The early classes, which would be that finished in, say, 42, no, I guess, yeah, 42 or 43, went to Houston.
Right.
But after that, all the other classes were in Sweetwater.
Right. And what exactly did you do for the WASP? I mean, were you an instructor?
I was, being as late as it was, they just assigned me as an engineering test pilot.
I see. Okay.
So I flew flights after that craft were repaired. But the early women flew everything that the Army had, the lucky ones that were ferry pilots. Other than ferry pilots, we had probably the most dangerous job was tow target. Women flew when the artillery was firing at a target. They were trailing back of their aircraft, and some of them were instructors. Just about everything that was needed.
Yeah.
The women were doing it.
What kind of planes were you flying?
Well, I personally just flew training planes. My primary was in Stearman's. Basic was in BT-13, and the prime, the greatest, was the AT-6. I got to fly it in my advanced training.
Yeah.
But everything that the Army had was flown, even the B-29. My pal Dora Strother was taught by Paul Tippett, the pilot who dropped.
Enola Gay.
And they taught these two women to fly because the guys coming back from Europe didn't trust the B-29. They were afraid of it. And so after they taught the women to fly it, then the guys had to...
We're the guinea pigs.
Yeah. And they used women like that on something else that was scary to fly. I think a B-25 guys didn't really, or at least that's what I've been told. I don't know.
Did you ever ride in a B-29 or?
No, I've been in a 17, but that's not a B-29.
Not the big one. Now these are mostly these weren't naval planes, right? These were.
No. The AT-6 was used.
Were they Grumman planes, or do you know who manufactured them? Or?
Well, the Stearman.
Stearman, okay, that's right.
Did the primary, and Vultee did the BT-13. We called it the Vultee vibrator, and the AT-6 was done up here at Dallas. I can't remember North American Aviation.
Yeah.
I believe that was it.
Yeah.
They did the Mustang, and the AT-6 was sometimes called the Texan, and the Navy called it the SN something, but the Navy used it too.
So you were in Sweetwater, and that was Avenger?
Avenger Field.
Avenger Field. And
we had civilian instructors, but we had military Air Corps. It was still Army Air Corps before it became the Army.
Right, sure.
Air Force.
Right. And then you went from there down to Houston?
No, I went to Tucson, Arizona. I only had 6 weeks out there.
In Tucson? 6 weeks of and same thing, was it like test piloting? Is that what you did?
Yes, that's what I did in Tucson. At Avenger, it was all training, which we you know, some cross countries on the end and under the hood, learning to fly instruments, that kind of thing.
So you were
Aerobatics.
right. So it was an aerobatics.
Yeah, we had a little bit, not
of
much. A little bit of aerobatics, a little bit of formation, a little bit of night flying.
Yeah. So you pulled a few G's, did you?
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever been on this is of no interest to your radio audience, have you ever been on the lift at St. Andrews? It's very slow, and I say, wait till I get on my G suit.
Yeah. Actually, I did have experience about a year ago of doing some aerobatics. There's an outfit at what's the airport at?
Easterwood?
No. It's in the Spring area. It's it's a small airport. It's a company called Texas Air Aces, and you can actually go and pay, and you can be a Top Gun pilot for an hour. I didn't have to pay because it was sort of a trade out with the radio station, but I got an hour flight in a Navy trainer.
Right.
And I think I ended up pulling maybe 3, 4, something like that. That was enough for me. I know that. We did some aerobatics and some barrel rolls and things like that. It was quite exciting. It really was. So you went to Tucson, and at Tucson you were a test pilot. And did you train other pilots?
No.
You never did that?
No, it was a training base, but, I was not.
And you did that for 6 weeks? Okay. Now tell me about your husband, and when did you get married, and what did he do? What was his name?
Roland Chatham.
Roland?
He was a photographer here for many years. He wanted to be a cinematographer and went to school in Los Angeles, although he was a native Brownite too. But he went into the service as a tech sergeant, as a motion picture cameraman.
Right.
And he had some rough experiences. He went to North Africa.
I just want to make sure that this thing is kind of popped up. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
He was covered the invasion of North Africa, and all of the African campaign, and went into Sicily. Was it Anzio? I don't remember.
Right.
But he was called home because his mother was seriously ill after about a year and a half, and so he didn't get in on the D-Day, which is good because he probably wouldn't have lived through that, covering it motion picture wise, and was the happiest thing that ever happened to him. His eyes would just kind of roll back in his head when he would talk about the liberation of Paris. He claims to be in the first Jeep that went into Paris, and they just all, male and female, came out and hugged and kissed him and brought him whatever they had, food, wine, whatever, champagne, whatever was available.
Oh yeah, we've seen the films of that and the pictures of that.
Yeah. He probably shot
in Paris
some of those.
After the E-Day.
Yeah.
And, so he shot these films that we see when we these documentaries. And like when you go to the movie theater and see the reels and all that kind of stuff. He shot the official military video or a film of that.
He did indeed.
Wow.
He shot 35 millimeter film. And but he was captured. I claim they were trying to be the first people in Germany, and I think they were. He was captured in September of '44 and spent 8 months as a POW.
In a German POW camp?
In a German POW camp.
8 months? Is that what you said? How long was he there?
He was captured in September, and he said a big old Russian tank broke down the gate in April of '44, so September to April. October, November, December.
April of '45.
April of '45, yes.
Which was near the end of the war.
Yes.
Right.
It was the VE Day was in May 96, something like that.
Right. So that was, I guess he had a lot of stories to tell about that, didn't he?
Yes, he was very interesting to talk to.
Yeah. Now, did you all get together after the war? I mean, after he got back?
Yeah.
Did you know him before? Or?
Yeah, I've known him all ever since I can remember.
Because he grew up here also, right?
Well, I didn't like him very much.
So you weren't exactly childhood sweethearts. You were childhood
no,
contemporaries, but you didn't like him very much.
He was about 3 years older. He claimed he didn't remember me in high school, so I got out my yearbook and showed him he had signed my yearbook. Proved that he did know me. Or at least he had seen me.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
What did you, so you went to high school here?
Uh-huh.
Would that have been what, Stephen F. Austin? Or?
Yes, it was Stephen F. Austin when I graduated.
Right.
It was Brown High School, I think, when I started. But I was in the last class to graduate in the old building that was where Fannin School is now.
Right.
The old building.
Right. And then you went into the W.A.S.P.s when you were, what,
I was 23.
You were 23. What'd you do between high school and then?
Well, I went to school in the East 1 year to a junior college called Edgewood Park, and then I went to the University of Texas for about 2.5 years, and then I came home and didn't do too much of anything till I was...
Until you...
well, I learned to fly, and then I went to Dallas and worked a while.
Right.
And that's...
So after you got out of the service, did you continue to fly?
I came back and worked for Coulter Field for a while.
What did you do at Coulter?
Sometimes check people out, office work, primarily.
And early on, you did that in exchange for flying time, right?
Yes. Well, that's what I still did when I came back. I never got paid much any money from the Cardinals, but it was okay. I was glad to have the flying time and used it.
So you were saying you did continue to fly even after you got back, just recreational or just? Yeah.
Take my family, friends, or fly my mother up to Dallas, my brother up to Dallas.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law over to Waco, another one over to Temple. And then Roland offered me a job in his studio, so I went to work for him. In the meantime, we'd started dating during college years.
And you turned out to be a pretty good employee, so he went ahead and married you, huh?
Well, that took a while, but we did finally get married.
When did you get married?
I hate to tell you. In 1978.
1978?
It was kind of a long engagement. 35 years.
35-year engagement?
Something
you got married
in
1978? And that's the only time you've been married?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
I'll be darned. I'll be darned. Now,
kind of stupid.
Wait, Roland's gone now, right?
Yes. He died in 87.
In 87?
He had a stroke and was sort of handicapped for almost 10 years.
Had he stayed with the photography studio?
Yes, he did. He did.
Right?
He did.
I'll be darned.
I think originally he wanted to be probably a cinematographer in Hollywood, but after the war was over, his parents were old, and he dismissed his family and decided to stay here. And of course, the only thing he could do is go into still photography in Bryan College Station in those days.
Do you think that, as far as when you think back to World War II, do you think that women get kind of a raw deal as far as the recognition for what they did? Not only the women that were in the service, but are the women that were not in the service, but were stayed behind and worked in the factories and the munition plants and all of that,
Well,
because women pretty much ran the country while
Yes.
during those war years. Do you think that's recognized enough?
Well, it has been recently.
Yeah,
It was kind of ignored for years and years. But we just kind of stopped talking about the war, male and female, when it was over. We wanted to get back to something normal.
Yeah.
And I know there's, of course, women didn't even have the vote until 1920, so it's been a long uphill road for us. But it's nothing I resent personally, but
Right.
I'm sure there are plenty that do.
Yeah. It's not really an issue as far as with you.
But
Would you consider yourself a women's libber of that time?
no.
You liked,
Well, I didn't know any better, I don't think. I wasn't trying to make a living for my family or for children, and so I was just content, I think, with the way it was.
what was it like? Do you remember what it was like to fly the first time? I mean, was it?
It was wonderful. And I guess the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me is the day I soloed.
The first day. You remember it, don't you?
Oh, yes. It was marvelous.
Was it right out of Coulter?
Coulter Field. Sure was. That's where I soloed.
What kind of plane was that? Do you remember?
I think it was an interstate. I never seen any of those since, but
How long a flight was it?
Dick Cardwell had several interstates in his little school. I think probably just a takeoff and landing. Maybe I did more than one.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I loved flying. I never get tired of looking down.
I'm the same way.
I just love it.
I'm the same way. I never do either. I mean, other people, these people that ask for a seat on the aisle or pull down the shade and go to sleep or start reading, I just don't think they appreciate the land.
No.
And the view and what you can see
Right.
from up there.
Right.
I'm like a little kid. I'm sitting there looking out the window the whole way.
I
You see
swear,
something different.
window seat every time. I'm the same
I
way.
do too. Even if you fly the little thing from here to Dallas or here to Houston, 15 minutes. I'm looking down and I enjoy, especially like from here to Houston.
Yeah.
And I like to fly, there's 6 and there's 105
Yeah,
and there's a golf course. And I like to look at golf courses.
That's
My
fun.
favorite place to fly into is Phoenix, Arizona. I count the golf courses.
Yeah, I bet there are a lot. And
I've never been to Grand Canyon, but I flew over it one time, and that was just amazing. I'm the same way.
are you a pilot?
No. No, I mean,
You ought to be.
as a passenger, I'm fascinated by it. It's also a good way, if you're at all nervous flying, it's a good way to cure the nervousness. Just
Well, I
have a
would
good time
think.
and look around, and
I would think, but I don't know. I can't relate to those people who don't like to fly. I have a hard time.
I can't. Well, I guess everybody has their flights that weren't particularly enjoyable, and you're a little bit nervous, and I can understand that, and I've had those too. In your years of flying, you've probably had some flights that weren't particularly enjoyable, right? Or were little.
Well, even those were.
Did you ever have any close calls or anything like that?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
But I never could remember to turn on my carburetor heat. This was after when I was working at Coulter Field. I don't know, I had something to deliver over to Easterwood or something, and when you need the carburetor heat to keep the butterfly valve from freezing. I don't really understand what I'm talking about, but
But you forgot to do it.
yeah, and so the engine goes off and you have a dead stick landing. But both times it happened to me. Well, 2 of the times it happened to me, I was in the landing pattern. So all I had to do was to bring it in it became a glider. I just glided in, no problem. And one time I was flying out over the Brazos bottom, and I don't know why, I cut my engine. I can't remember. But anyhow, I had to put it down in a cotton field.
Oh.
And the ground was a little bit moist, so I came to a pretty quick stop and got out and cranked her up and took off again, came back to Coda Field, so it wasn't really any problem.
Well, you probably didn't think so. Other people might have thought that was a problem.
Well, I guess at the moment it happened, I was pretty perturbed, but more so about the aircraft, and getting it out and back to Coda Field.
So have you quit flying now?
Yeah, I haven't flown. Roland used to shoot aerials, and he was a pilot too. He took flying on his GI Bill after the war. He had done some flying just because he loved it before the war, but he wasn't a pilot. But he did got his commercial ticket on the GI Bill, and when he would shoot the aerials, he would take over the controls and hold his camera and do the wheel with his knees and put in one rudder. He would put it in a stall and get down on whatever he was photographing. And finally I said, Chatham, I'm not going to fly you anymore on those aerial flights. And I haven't flown since. I just haven't had an opportunity. But you got to get Guy Davis to fly you on any of your aerial photography from now on.
So when would that have been? When did you?
In the mid-50s.
In the mid-50s?
Uh-huh.
So that would have been the last time that you...
He and I used to fly a lot together, just cross-country for fun.
Yeah.
One time flew down to Galveston and landed on the beach, which is illegal. Took a swim, came back home. It was wonderful. Good time.
That was. What a memory that must have been. That's great.
One of my happy ones.
You've been a long-time member of St. Andrews?
All my life.
Is that right? That's,
born there.
Well, that's so you must be about their oldest living member right about now, or a long time.
Well, I guess I am.
Well, maybe not their oldest living, but have been there the longest, Jen.
But pretty much almost the oldest living.
Yeah.
Even so-called new people that have only been there 50 years or so.
Because it's the oldest church as far as being in that building.
Yes.
In Bryant, right?
Yes.
Didn't I read that as far as
having
been in the same building?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
We love it. We enjoy it so much. We really do. We were bad churchgoers this past summer, and of course in summertime that happens to people. They get and with my schedule sometimes being out of town on weekends because I do sports and all of that is tough, but we love it. We love Father Nick.
Great. Isn't he wonderful?
He's just fantastic.
My
wife and I, we were members at St. Thomas. And as a matter of fact, Father Ben married us over there.
Yeah.
But we just, I don't know, we just never really felt like we fit in there. There was we love Father Ben. We really that's the thing we miss the most. Being around, we thank the world of him.
He's marvelous.
But there was just there was a friendliness at St. Andrews
I think so.
That didn't exist at any of the other churches we've been, not at St. Thomas or any of the other ones. We just felt like we fit more, and we wanted to do the other activities. We never really felt an urgency to go to Sunday school or do the social activities at St. Thomas like we do at St. Andrews.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. We haven't always been that way.
Well,
I can tell you from me, always have been that.
It's improved then, I guess, because I got in on the right time.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I first met Father Nick when Ben invited me to play in the Bishop's Golf Tournament one year, and Father Nick and I shared a golf court for 18 holes. That's when I first met him several years ago. And then we came and visited a couple of times, and we just decided, well, shoot, we just like it so much, we're going to join.
You have children?
They're grown children. My wife and I, we're a mixed family. We're both divorced, and I have two sons, 22 and 18, and she has one son who's 23.
Oh, well,
And
there.
the two oldest, her son and my oldest, are both out of town, and my 18-year-old is a freshman at Blinn. He lives with his mother in College Station. So,
Well, great.
so yeah, we've got kids. But Judy and I really, we enjoy it. We enjoy it. She's started to go to some of the women's activities.
There's such warmness among those women that we really care about each other and enjoy each other, find each other fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, this has been great. Thank you. This is just fascinating. And
I've enjoyed talking about it.
well, I know. I've become fascinated with World War II just recently, and I don't know why exactly. I guess. Well, no, I do know why. I read a book, Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation. Enjoyed that book a lot. I really did. Matter of fact, I'm rereading it now. I'm going back to some of my favorite characters in the book, and I'm rereading it right now. And that's, if you weren't appreciative of that generation before you read that book, you certainly will be afterwards. And then, I think the movie Private Ryan, that brought a lot of new interest to people about it. And I just can't read enough about it right now. And I go to the library and I rent, I check out documentaries about World War II. I've probably seen some stuff that your husband shot, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know either. And he sometimes would think, well, I probably shot that, but he didn't really remember because his stuff was sent off. He never saw it.
He never saw it.
He would get crits back sometimes,
right?
But he never saw
it was hard to recognize what he shot and what others shot
because he had to remember it,
right?
And he didn't have a real good memory.
But he was in Europe the whole time, right? When he wasn't in the Pacific.
No, nothing in the Pacific.
Or you said North Africa.
He was with the North African invasion.
I see.
And stayed through the whole African campaign and into Italy before he came home.
Right.
And then he went back in June, right after the D-Day, and covered Europe then up until September. So he didn't have but 2 or 3 months, really.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting story about Angelo Spinelli was an Italian fellow from the Bronx or Brooklyn. My Texas mind doesn't know which is which, or if they're the same in my mind, I guess. And he met Angelo. Angelo was a still man, and he met Angelo in North Africa. Angelo was captured in North Africa. And when he got to a prison camp, after being through the hospital, he was injured. That's how he was captured. The first person he met was Spinelli. And he credits Spinelli with saving his life because Spinelli was one of those guys that ran the prison camp and dealt in cigarette packages and cartons of cigarettes and kept rolling alive with a little extra food here and there that he was able to buy from the guards.
I'll be darned. Wow.
And so I think that was real interesting.
Yeah. He had some interesting stories, and you do too. Thank you, Ms. Chatham. That was our conversation with Catherine Chatham from October the 14th, 1999. Catherine passed away August the 25th of 2016. We thank her very much for her service to our country, a good friend and a good veteran, Catherine Chatham. I'm Tom Turbeville. Thanks for listening to the podcast, Brazos Valley Voices.